Most people spend their entire lives saving for retirement, trying to figure out, putting all the pieces together, building a plan, and hoping that they have enough for those golden retirement years. But then we have the other side of that coin, and we're asking the question, and we're going to talk through it today of is it possible to actually have too much money in retirement? It's funny because we're having this conversation and so many of us are striving, right, to have enough. And it always feels like we're in that constant journey of answering the question, what is enough and what is that magic number? Now, I was sitting down with a client a couple of years ago and we were building her financial plan for the first time. We had just started working together. And so we were bringing together all of her assets and taking a look at what her life was going to look like in retirement as she was preparing for those golden years. She was getting ready to retire in the upcoming months and wanted to get an idea of how much money did she currently have between all of her different assets, how much could she spend every year in retirement safely, and what kind of lifestyle could she have. And she was one of those people that was always on that hamster wheel, so worried she wouldn't have enough for retirement, but never took the time to make a plan and sit down and actually look at the numbers. So when we finally met and she was able to do so, we took a look at the numbers and I had the conversation with her that said, you're going to actually be able to spend a lot more in retirement than you anticipated. And we looked at the numbers and she looked so sad when she saw that if she kept spending the way she was, she would have millions left over at the end of her life. And I asked her, we took a moment and I paused because I could see her reaction and see that she was really disappointed, which is a reaction that many of us don't have, right? If you are retiring with millions and you see that you'll actually have some left over, that's usually a great place to be in. And people get that bucket list going of different items that they want to add on. But she had a really different reaction. And so I asked her what was wrong. And she paused for a moment and she thought about it and she said, I'm thinking about all of the different things that I could have done differently if I wasn't always just chasing a dollar. And she went through a list and she shared all the different moments that she had of experiences she missed because she stayed in the office for really long weekends or miss different weddings, opportunities, time with her family, trips that she never took. She was also experiencing different health issues because she did things like skip the gym most mornings to get into the office to work incredibly long hours, grueling. She had back issues from sitting at a desk for so long and not taking care of herself because she was more focused on the dollar than she was about her entire life. And that is something we really focus on here through the education we're doing through the Wealth Cafe and here at Tannis Financial Group is how are we making sure we are using our money and our wealth to build the lifestyles we really want so that you don't sit there at the end of your life or when you're at the end of your career as you're planning for retirement or these big milestones with that moment of regret. Now, she can't buy back her health, right? Yes, you can argue that she can get different health treatments and whatever it might be, but she's not going to get back a lot of her health or a lot of that time. And that's where I find that people often have those regretful moments. And that's where we're answering and coming back to this question of is it possible to retire with too much money? And it's more than just, okay, yes, you'll have money left over at the end of your lifetime. It's also dependent. Some people do want to have that extra a lump sum left over to pass it on to other generations to build a legacy. Not everyone has that same impact that they want to leave, and that's okay. Your money needs to do what you want it to. You may not want to leave money for the next generation, whether it's kids, grandkids, nieces, nephews, aunts, uncles, go down the whole family tree. You may not want to leave money to charity. That might not just be where the important things for you lie in this world, and that's okay. And that's something you need to know as you are saving and building for retirement is how much are you going to spend in retirement? And also, how much do you want left, if any, to pass on to the next generation? You may also be thinking, you know what, I actually do want to spend more during my lifetime and follow the concept of dying with zero, which means that you don't have any money left over at your life because you spend it all during your lifetime. And you want to be very clear on what that lifestyle in retirement looks like and what kind of money you want to be saving now to build up for that moment so you really are spending it during those golden years. Now, from the financial perspective of is it really possible to have too much money at the end of your lifetime? The answer is actually yes. From a tax perspective, you could have too much money in the wrong places. And by that, there are certain assets that are better to leave behind than others for those that are going to inherit your money. And there are different strategies that you can use with your financial team. And I will be doing a separate episode on this talking about things that you can do to help strategize during your lifetime to help the next generation. Now, it's possible that you have too much money in certain asset classes. So when you are passing things on to the next generation, you're not leaving them necessarily with as much money as you think you are. You might actually be leaving them with a really hefty tax bill. And now I want to make sure you are having these conversations now. We are coming up to year end. This is a great time to get things done in 2025, to plan for 2026, and to step back and say, are we putting enough away for retirement? Are we really on track? Or maybe are we a little bit ahead and we're putting too much away for those golden years? This is a good time to shift priorities, shift focuses, have these conversations about your goals, how your money is tracking this year, and what changes you may need to make for this year end and also going into 2026. I hope you enjoyed this episode as we dove into is it possible to have too much money at the end of your lifetime? If you have any stories of people you know in your lives, I would love to hear them because it is a common misconception from people that they don't think it's possible to die with too much money. So if you have any stories or experiences that you have, I would love to hear them. And I look forward to seeing you next week for another episode of the Wealth Cafe.